Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, What Your Managers Wish You Knew, How to Direct Your Team for Growth, brought to you by Pest Management Professional Magazine and our sponsor of the event, Slingshot. I'm Danielle Pesta from North Coast Media, the digital editor for Pest Management Professional, and I will be your event manager for today's presentation. Before we get started, I want to let you know that today's webinar will be recorded. You are currently in a listen-only mode. A recording of this webinar will be posted to mypmp.net/webinars and will be emailed to you tomorrow. At this time, I'd like to get you comfortable with our console and the ways you can participate during today's presentation. Please notice the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your console. If you have a question, type it in the panel's text box. Then click Submit to place your question in queue. You may also use the hashtag PMPWebinar on Twitter to submit questions during today's event or to enter into discussions with other attendees. We encourage you to ask and enter any questions you may have for our speaker during the presentation. We'll address these questions at the end of the presentation during the Q&A portion. Any questions submitted during registration may actually already be covered during the presentation. If you experience any technical difficulties during today's event, you may use the same Q&A panel on your screen to submit your issue, and assistant producer Grace Ryback or I will personally assist you. You may learn more about today's speakers by viewing their photo, bio, and contact information in the panel located in the upper left-hand corner of your console. Below the speaker information, there is a Contact Slingshot panel in the bottom left for you to send any follow-up remarks to our sponsor via email. These inquiries will not be addressed during the live event. If you are logged into your social media accounts, you can share the webinar's title, description, and URL with your friends or colleagues using the Share This widget that is placed below the slides. Also below the slides, the Refer a Colleague panel will allow you to email today's webinar information. At the bottom right of the console, you will find a PDF of today's presentation slides, which you can download, as well as a link to visit our sponsor and speakers' websites. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to today's moderator, Chief Revenue and Marketing Officer for Slingshot, Chris Brasher. Chris, over to you.
Thank you, Danielle. Great to be here with everybody. My name again, yes, is Chris Brasher, and I come from Slingshot. And excitingly, you can see now another logo next to our name. Last week, if you hadn't heard, we announced that we had joined forces with Workwave, which I'll talk about in just a minute, but we're really excited to be part of the Workwave family. Before I get started, I get to mention a little bit about what we do, and I want to thank PMP and Danielle and the rest of their team for hosting us and allowing us to sponsor this webinar. We've got a great session that's going to talk about what you wish your managers knew and how to direct your team for growth. So as I've thought about this, what do I want my team to understand about the business, and what do I want my manager to understand? What do I want that person to, whether it be an owner, a president, a VP, in each of these different sections that we're going to talk about today, what do I wish that they knew about my role, my organization, about what I do? So before we get started, I get to tell you just a little bit about Slingshot. So our kind of tagline this year is answer first, answer fast, 24/7. We're pest control experts. Most of our business is in the pest control industry, and also we do a lot of lawn, but we're a multi-channel contact center. We do phone, text, web lead response, and social. And so if any of those interactions are happening with your customers, which for home services, 70 to 90% of your interactions are by the phone, we can help handle that overflow, that after hours, those overflow, after hours, weekends, holidays. We like to say we're the best kind of employee, that we don't get sick on Mondays, and we're not late coming back from lunch. We're kind of an expandable accordion employee as well, that we can go and handle all the hours of the day, graveyard, if you will, after hours, Some people love that news hour, and they sometimes are doing advertising, and so we can help people do that. As I said before, we have joined forces with WorkWave and part of their family. Not only are we part of their family, we also integrate new accounts with WorkWave and a number of other CRMs in the space. And then kind of the things that we have that we're a little bit different than others. We're not just a normal answering service. So I've mentioned some of these, but we're industry specific. We can support, sell, and schedule. We are available 24/7. We know that a lot of your interactions over the phone. And we are CRM enabled. So a lot of systems we can integrate new contacts. We can also integrate your customers to reduce call times. And then we're a sales operation too. We have a lot of, we kind of like to convert really strongly on a lot of our Pest inbound requests that come in so that you're left with the service part, and that's what we'd like to help you with. That is enough about Slingshot. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers. So first, I get the pleasure of introducing Farrah Fulps. She is a fourth-generation Broken Arrowin. You might need to tell us, I guess that's maybe the names of the people that work there now, but an executive director of her late grandfather's company, Arrow Exterminators. She is studying for her entomology certification and is active in Professional Women in Pest Management, the Oklahoma Pest Management Association, and the National Pest Management Association. Her 20-year career path is focused on marketing and business development, beginning with GlaxoSmithKline. She then became the director of business development for Tulsa Regional Medical Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. After a few years living in Miami, Florida, which we all wish we could do, Farrah returned home to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma to help grow her grandfather's company. And I'm really excited that Farrah gets to talk about the marketing side of directing your team for growth and what you miss your manager knew. Next, we'll hear from Evan, who is Aptive's VP of Customer Solution. In this role, he oversees all aspects of customer support and service and is responsible for creating a delightful and differentiating experience for Aptive's customers. He leads and drives the overall customer service strategy and identifies ways to achieve the highest levels of customer satisfaction. Been at Aptive for more than 2 years and has worked with and built out strong teams for everything from data and analytics to call center management and operations. Brings nearly a decade of high-performance call center management in both sales and customer service environments, and a passion for leveraging data-driven insights into actionable business process and policies. And Evan is going to talk to us about the operations and specifically on the call center operations. Little known odd coincidence. The day I came back to California from a trip when I was interviewing with Slingshot, Evan was at my house. It's the first time I'd ever heard his name and who he was, and he came with a friend, and I met Evan the same day that I had my interview with Slingshot. So great little story. And then we got Pete Schopen, a second-generation pest management professional who owns Schopen Pest Solutions, which has serviced 19,000 clients in Illinois and Wisconsin, and is projected to reach more than 3 million sales in 2021. Shortly after launching his company in 2006, he began writing a column for Pest Management Professional magazine called Startup Diaries about the day-to-day struggles of starting a business. A former sports broadcaster, and he decided to hang up his microphone in 2000 to focus on his wife, Tammy, and their 2 sons, Trey and Caleb. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm really excited to turn the time over to Farrah to talk about marketing and what you should know.
Thank you, Chris. That was a great intro. So, hello everyone. I'm super excited to be here and talk to you a little bit about marketing. It's a big area, so I'm going to just kind of hit on a few things. And of course, at the end, if you have any questions about anything I've talked about or want more information or, hey, how do I run that report? Or, feel free to reach out to me via email or phone. Either way, I'll be happy to help. So anyway, what we kind of looked at in looking at what I wish that everybody else I work with knew. I think a lot of them think I don't work at all, but we kind of broke it down to 3 general areas that you can measure your growth. So the first one I kind of want to talk about is how you can utilize reports within your CRM. I mean, we have Pest, we have our, we have our CRMs, but how are we actually utilizing them? Are we using the tools there to, run reports? Specifically, the first thing is retention. Why are you ask the question, why are your customers loyal? Why, what's wrong? What's right? And I kind of like this loyalty ladder because you can't just look at it this way, that you have a lead and then you have a customer. And you have more than that. You have the lead, and you have the customer, and then you have someone who's got one-time service, and then somebody who adds on, and then you have the person that's on Facebook recommending you whenever someone pops on there and says, hey, I'm looking for a pest control company in Tulsa. Who should I use? They're the ones, your brand champions are super important because they're the ones that are putting you out there and referring you, via Facebook and things like that. And word of mouth is still super important. So this book, I highly recommend if you have time and want to kind of dive into retention. This book has been really good for me. Customers are really likely to spend more money with you if they've already done business with you. They're going to spend more money. They're going to become a bigger customer. They also, like I said before, are the ones that will give you the good reviews on Facebook and Google. And the more referrals you get, the more loyal customers you get. And it's just an endless effect. And studies in this book show that if you retain a loyal customer, that you'll gain 3 new customers just by that one. So you just can't overestimate the importance of customer retention. So especially when you're wanting those add-on services. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is the year over year. I'm hearing a lot of feedback. The year over year gross sales report. So I'm going to give you the example in Pest Pack. I know not everyone uses Pest Pack, but this is what we use. So this type of report is the location report, and it's just really helpful to look at month over month. I look at these month over month specifically to change, and I also change things to a service type and then adjust my marketing plan. So like my Google ads, I can adjust my budget based on this report here. And I know, there's companies I've talked to that never use these reports. It blows my mind. But anyway, it helps you to adjust all of your marketing campaigns really quickly. For example, if it's termite swarming season and you need to boost your leads, you can increase your Google ad budgets just for termites this way. Or you can run an email ad campaign for just termites. So it really helps you to kind of drill down to that specific service area. And then the next kind of report I'd like to touch on is the location report. I think I had a little technical error there. Sorry about that. I'm back. If you're a company that has multiple locations, for instance, you can drill down to each location and then again to service type. And then
Hi, Farrah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Chris, and I want to make sure that we can hear you clearly. Yeah, I want to make sure that all the speakers and panelists are muted. Is there someone? Because you have some background noise, I think, and I want to make sure we get that taken care of.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of feedback.
So, yeah, let's get everyone muted. Thank you. Sorry about that. And hopefully that fixes things.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. All right, carrying on. This slide, I'm just kind of looking at the sales by service example here, and this is for just Centricon installs, just Centricon installations. And for this particular company, we're looking at from January to April 30th of this year. So I can look at how are we doing this year over last year. Well, we're not doing very well, so I can adjust accordingly for that particular service type with my marketing plan. The next thing I really like to use, whenever we're talking about retention and loyal customers and things like that, what's working? So, if you can do all the marketing in the world, you can spend millions of dollars on everything, but if you're not doing the right things, then you're just wasting your time. So, and this report right here is going to show from PestPack the sources. So as your customers are calling in to your CSRs, ours immediately, if it's a new customer, ask, and along with Slingshot, when they answer, they ask, how did you hear about us? Was it a truck? Now, the only thing about this report I will say that can be a problem is that it is a report that will run basically all time. So as long as we've been using PestPack, it'll show me the sources for each customer in our database. So, for example, something that is off is phone books. So you kind of have to take all those little things into account. Some of these reports aren't perfect, but they are helpful in a lot of ways. So, especially if you're using direct mail campaigns and things like that, and you want to see, how things are coming in, this is a good way to do that. So.
And Farrah, I guess the question for you as you go on to the next number 2, you use, I'm throwing you a curveball here, but you use all of these reports on a daily, weekly basis. How often are you utilizing these reports to, make sure your management team knows how you're doing? How often is that happening?
I'd say with us, probably monthly. We do a monthly meet and kind of go through all of these things, and that's what keeps my job. So I'd say once a month, but I look at them weekly usually. So it depends on the report. Source reports I typically look once a month or so, because the data doesn't change that quickly. So the next thing, the second way, and it's kind of a weird little angle, but you can look at all your wins all day long, but are you measuring your losses, and are you figuring out why you have those losses? How are you losing potential customers? I've only been with my grandfather's company for 3 years. Before I came in, it was ridiculous. We were just so out of date. I don't know how they were staying afloat actually with the way they were marketing, but especially after the last year, we've learned that mobility is super important with everything that we do, and people want convenience. For example, the 5 in-house schedulers that we have, in addition to Slingshot, we quickly March of last year, had to move them home. And were we ready for that? No, absolutely not. And then, of course, we had to look at their accountability and performance, and were they working? And it took them a little while. They were a little lazy over last summer. It was pretty bad. And that's when we brought Slingshot on, of course. And that helped, because with that, they looked at their job and they thought, well, they don't really need me now, and I'm at home, so I better get my butt in gear and actually work. So it really, adding Slingshot, and it helped with their performance. But there were a lot of lost calls at that time, and calls that were going to a general voicemail box. Your prospects that are calling you aren't going to wait for you to call them back. It's just not going to happen. So, you need to be available when they're calling. So, statistically, 25% of sales calls come in after hours too. So, do you have somebody available at 8 o'clock? If you don't, then they're going to call somebody who is. So, like I said, we have to be available when the customer is available. It's just not an 8 to 5 world anymore. It would be nice if it was, but it's not. So why is this such a big issue? It's just a fast-paced world now. It's digital. Everything's digital. For us, about 3 years ago, like I said before, it was a lack of channels by which the customers could reach us. So, parlay that with a management staff that was very reluctant to change, any change at all. Everything needed to be on paper, and it was just very old-fashioned. Things just weren't looking great. So we were basically, the only way you could get a hold of us is via phone from 8 to 5. So after I came in, we added a chat bot through another service. It was just a bot. It was just automated. And it really, I don't necessarily recommend only automated chat bot. They're not great. So, we added that. Then we added Slingshot, and we were able to add a live chat 24/7, which is invaluable because that's what people want, whether it be their cable service. It doesn't matter what it is. People, that they use it. They really do, and it's just so much more convenient. People don't want to pick up the phone anymore. It's crazy. So, we now have the click-to-calls directly from Google Ads and display ads and local services. So what happens if you're paying for that ad, you get a click, what is it, $27 in some cases, and nobody answers the phone or it goes to voicemail, you're wasting money. So we have all these channels now and available basically 24/7. And I can actually put our hours on Google as 24/7. I don't because my management will kill me, but that's something that I intend to do eventually. So, of course, you also have to have somebody who is willing to answer all of those channels. So, if you've got a Yelp lead that comes in at 3 o'clock in the morning, do you have somebody that's willing to take care of that? Because Yelp will actually measure the amount of time it takes you to answer that customer. So it's kind of important sometimes to answer it right away. So that's another, I do all of that, so nobody else has to worry about that. But I do actually sleep too sometimes. But so a lot, the thing to remember is a lot of people will actually choose their pest control company based solely on how many conveniences you offer them. So you've got to stay ahead of your competition that way and definitely keep up or surpass the big boys. And when I call them big boys, it's, the O word and the T word that I don't like to say out loud. But, even if people are going back to the office, they've really become spoiled in the last year in particular by the quick conveniences that are available to them. So it's really important to stay ahead of the game there. So of these channels, I'll go through a few of them, and then I think the other guys are going to go through a few of them as well. So the first one is Google Local Services. And I don't know how many people are familiar with or use Google Local Services. I have literally, by using this service, I think I started a little over a year ago with it. And it was new. It was kind of a confusing process to get it set up, I'm not going to lie. And if anybody isn't using Google Local Services, I highly recommend it. And in the setup, if you have any problems and you want to shoot me an email and say, hey, what do I do about this? Because I went through it, and it is a pain, but it's definitely worth it in the end. But by using it, I've been able to dramatically eliminate Google ad spend. I was spending $10,000 a month just on the Google ads. And now my goal is about $2,000. I think I'm right about 3, maybe close to 4 right now, but we're slowly getting there. With Google Local Services, you have the ability to advertise your business on Google, same as the ads, and receive the leads directly from the potential customers. And it's actually that Google Local Services is unique to home services only. So it shortens the path, basically, by which that customer is trying to reach you. One click to call or message directly to you via the app. That's it. Local Services ads appear at the top of the Google search results, just like Google ads. when people search for the services, for your services in the given area. And you're only charged for valid leads, and depending on the job and the market, the leads can be from $6 to $30. I think mine are running about 17. So for each time that customer clicks on that, I get docked $17. But the difference between that and an ad is that you're still spending that kind of money on the ad, but where are they going? They click the ad, they go to your website, or they're filling out the form. Google Local Services, I get the phone call and the message immediately. When they click it, I get charged, I get the phone call, and I can measure it all. That, I'll show you that in a minute. But and with Google Local Services, they offer this thing called Google Guaranteed, and they give you a badge, and that company is screened, and basically you just have to show that you're bonded and insured, and Google will guarantee to get the job done, or they provide the customer's money back with a lifetime cap of $2,000. So even like your larger jobs like Centricon or bedbug jobs, Google will guarantee that if the customer uses that channel to reach you. So, and I'm going to kind of show you how that looks like in the app. I mean, within the app, and it's weird because you can't really use Google Local Services on your desktop. You have to use it on your tablet or your phone, so it's kind of odd. But within that app, you can keep track of the leads that come in. You can mark them booked, track the leads to conversion. You can listen to the actual phone call recording that comes from that call, and even send a request for a Google review right from the app. It's really cool. If missed calls are an issue for you, it also will show up as a missed call. So you'll see that, and Google won't charge you for those missed calls. And you can also kind of vet the calls as well. So if you've got like a spam call that came in or something, then you can mark that. You can dispute the charge, and Google will pay you back for it. And they're pretty good about it. So, and this is just kind of a little example here of what the app looks like. So the far left is all the leads, all the phone calls that we got on those days for Oklahoma City area. And at the bottom there, it shows the recording, it shows the transcript, or you can listen to it, which is really cool. You make your own private notes about the account, and this is really neat for Google, being able to send that customer a review request right here from the same app. And then there's an example of a missed call there. So that's it for Google Local Services. The next thing is the organic searches and the web page forms, a thing I call consumer affairs. So what this page is I did a search for top pest control near me. So this is just an example of what came up. So first you see the Google Local Services, and we're first before the big boys there, which is really hard to do. So, and then we've got your paid ads, which I'm not there, and I'm fine because I've gotten to the point now where I don't really like them anymore. I mean, I feel like there's so many other channels that you can use. And if you're showing up in the map, that's really important. But a lot of times you're not going to show up on the map if that customer isn't close to you. So it can be a little dicey. And then the next thing is our organic ranking. It has been a really, really long road for me to really get our organic ranking up. There's so much that goes into it with your website, and whether Google likes your website. It's just really difficult. So one of the things I kind of found here to combat that problem is consumer affairs. It is the consumer affairs that you've heard of, but they have local offices in a lot of cities that find authorized partners to provide these kind of pages. They look really legitimate, and people really trust and believe it. So it's the same type search, but their SEO is so great. They're the first organic listing that pops up. So it looks like a news station that ran a story on the 10 best PC companies in Tulsa, and we did the same for Oklahoma City. And Consumer Affairs is able to hold this organic placement. It's crazy. As long as I'm showing up at the top, though, through the Google Local Services and my map location, I'm really happy with using this as my organic. And again, usually there's a click to call button. I'm actually emailing with them right now to see what's going on with that. So the little window with the 6 at the top on the right, and it's a click as well. And I think they run about $20 a click. So. And the next slide,
So I was going to ask you and just jump in here really quick. You're talking about report utilization, what you're missing in those reports, and looking at the individual channels. I know you're going to get into like the web page contact form. After that, we'll go ahead and talk about like the actual call performance. Is there a thing that you wish you had better, or that you had at Arrow that hasn't worked for you yet, and that you're still working on?
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenge is our organic ranking. Organic ranking means we're just organically there, and we don't have to pay for all of the placement. And it's just a lot of money that goes out. That if you have good organic ranking, you're great. You're golden. I mean, that's just great, because it also means that your website and your pages, your landing pages on your website are optimized, and that Google likes you. And it all kind of goes hand in hand, and it quickly changes. So it's a constant battle. But I think that's my biggest challenge, is just that organic ranking and having to find other avenues to get there. So it's not a cheap venture either. So this is our web page contact form, and it's super important with your contact form to make sure that mobily it's accessible, it's easy to fill out. Don't ask for too much information, because you're not gonna get it. Let's see, and the free estimate form coming from the website. You want that button to be super accessible. I'm going to kind of hit on that here in a second when I talk about the conversion optimization stuff. So now this is an example of how Slingshot answers with our web chat. So right now, as a chat comes in, and again, you want that little chat button to be easy to find. And I know ours isn't great, but we're working on that too. But it comes in initially automated, so that Slingshot can capture a lot of the information that they need just to talk to the customer, save some time there. And then on the far right, you've got I did a little chat with them the other day, just to get, this is all from my cell phone, so just so I could get a screenshot of it. You see a little chat there. And then here are some of the reports that you can use within Slingshot, and I think they're going to hit on these a little bit later in more detail. But they have great reporting with the total interactions that you might have, what type of calls they are. Again, they have their scripting. They get a lot of the source information. You can run reports on that as well. So I'll let them talk a little bit more in depth about that. And then the last thing I kind of want to talk about on my end is the conversion rate optimization. All of the Google Ads and local services and social media followers and billboards, TV commercials, I mean, you name it. All of the marketing in the world cannot make a potential customer take the action that they need to become an actual customer on your website, through your website, without good conversion rates. So, first of all, conversion rate optimization, a lot of people are, what is that? It's easy. It's just the process of optimizing your web or landing page to improve the probability that your site visitors are going to do what you want them to. And to configure the conversion rate, it's just the amount of visitors, total amount of visitors to your site in a given period of time, coming from all different channels. You divide that by the number of visitors that actually did what you wanted them to do. Did they fill out that form? Did they click to call? Did they click to chat? So for example, if you had 300 site visitors and 50 of them filled out your form, you have a 16% conversion rate. If you had a 16% conversion rate, you're a unicorn. That's crazy. The optimal conversion rate, really right now, the top 10% of Google Ads advertisers have an account conversion rate of about 11.45. So most people, don't freak out if you have an SEO guy and he gives you 5%. That's actually really good. It's not bad at all. It's when you're below 4 that you really need to look into it. And, I said rebuild my site again. No, everybody thinks you've got to rebuild and redo your site every stinking year. It's not necessary. So what can you do to help those conversion rates? These little changes like font types, button colors, all those little things, they're not really going to make a huge difference. The small changes equal small gains. I am always saying think outside of the box. Try to don't do the normal. Don't do what your competitors are doing. Ask your customers, brainstorm, come up with some unique offers to test. You never know which one will be a winner until you try some new offers. If you go to Terminix, I did say it. If you go to their website, it says their form fill or their button to get to their form fill says enter your zip code, get started. How boring is that? I mean, even they're not even doing anything very unique. So, you can change what you're offering or how you're baiting them. Start your free inspection now. If you have contact us now or something, try something new and fresh. And don't look at what your competition is doing either. Try to be unique and catching. So something like ready to be bug-free, click here. There's any number of things, but just get creative with it because that's gonna help your conversions. Something I've always wanted to try, and a lot of people will do a Google search. They can't identify bed bugs, so we've got so many landing pages with blogs. A lot of our people end up on our page that are even in other parts of the country that are just trying to identify a bug. And I've always wanted to have on our website or within our website a bug identifier. I think it would be really neat to get people to if they are local and they do use it and they figure out what it is first and then they can call us. I think it would be a neat little pathway. So anybody out there that can app
I was going to say, I think we have one more kind of CRO slide, if we could kind of touch on that topic really quick, and then we go ahead and have Evan take over next. So thank you.
Sure. So one other thing, make sure that your click to call and text number is at the very top of the page and clear, and check it on mobile and make sure it's very clear and accessible. You need to make sure that you're checking your website speed. A lot of times Google will do that in their crawls that they do, and they don't like the speed of your website, they'll tag you for it. So, and then another thing that you can use for conversion rate optimization is your remarketing or your retargeting ads. With your display ads or your YouTube ads, they're really big right now. And through your email and social media and the app, the little app. You're playing a game and a commercial an ad pops up. You can actually insert, and they're not very expensive either. So, and I suggest if you're going to work on your website or somebody tells you need to rebuild it or redo it, at least just take your top 10 pages, your top performing pages that are getting the most clicks, the most conversions, and work on those 10, and you'll see a huge difference in your conversion rates. So. That's it for me. And like I said in the beginning, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, or there's a lot, I just kind of touched on stuff. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any time.
Yeah, thank you, Farrah. If I had to think about all the many things that happen in marketing, also being kind of a chief marketing officer here is that just there's so many unique data points that you get to look at. So we appreciate that. You know, now we get to hear from Evan, who's going to talk about call center operations. And Evan, you know, you're obviously a very large call center, 200, 300 people at times, possibly more. And you've had experience in the small side when there's, you know, if you only have 4 people, 5 people in the office, it kind of multiplies when you get more and more people. So love to hear what you have to say and turn the time over to you.
Thanks, Chris, for the introduction. And thanks, Farrah, before me for the tips there. I know there are several of the things that you've touched on that Aptive has implemented over the last couple of years that have worked really, really well. So for anybody listening, those are good tips. I will confirm that for Farrah. The overarching theme, obviously, for this entire presentation, as well as for my bit here, is what I wish my managers knew. And this is both applies to the C-suite above me and then also to the various managers across my different teams. Fortunately, I have incredible people around me on all sides, so my managers all have a solid grasp on these elements now, but it definitely wasn't always that way, not by a long shot. So first, let's talk about how it is all about your people first. First and foremost, regardless of your industry, your business model, your company size, the strategy for virtually all of us is about 2 primary things: increasing your employee productivity, so your business efficiency, and increasing your customer loyalty. As it turns out, though, from the right angle, both of those goals are about getting your people to stay. A recent study by Gartner measured employee and customer satisfaction together, and they found an extremely high correlation between the ease with which the employees are able to take care of the customers and customer loyalty. So the better you treat your customers, and most importantly, set them up for success when interacting with your customers, the more likely they are to both stick around. So there are the obvious things here, that they are your direct connection to your customers. It is hard work, both for your agents and your operations management. And you do need to be thinking constantly and consistently about how to motivate and engage your agents, especially across the seasonality of the year. So the next few slides are going to go into further detail about how this all comes together. But the important point is to look for and stay on top of ways that you can enable your employees to take care of your customers. So key secret number 1, I've got a couple of these. If you don't remember anything else, just bear these in mind, please, and I promise they will make a difference for you. But key secret number 1 is to shadow regularly, to listen to and watch how your agents interact with your customers. So go out of your way to identify systems or processes that inhibit your agents from being able to take care of your customers effectively. I try to do this about once every week or two. Just spend 10, 20, 30 minutes, whatever you can, shadowing one of my agents while they handle customer requests. Literally every single time, though, there is at least one thing that I spot that's creating unnecessary complications for my agents. One time in particular, and this was genuinely just a couple of weeks ago, and this is a small but just really clear example of this. We've made a change to a specific process which had helped our routing efficiency, so that was good, but had ended up making one of our work templates completely unusable, and we hadn't realized it in advance. I sat and watched as my agent, call after call, manually repeated a process that took nearly 2 minutes of her time each time that could have been done in 10 to 15 seconds with the working template. This template took 10 minutes to correct and update. Now, this again is a small and simple example that if you're only working on a couple of dozen calls per day total across your business, it doesn't make a huge difference. But when you carry that through dozens or even hundreds of agents taking hundreds or even thousands of calls per day, it translates into tens of thousands of dollars very, very quickly. Not only that, but from the employee perspective, your employee is stuck spending time and effort and energy on a repetitive task when they could be spending that extra time and energy with the customer and ensuring that they're delivering an amazing experience instead. So templated actions also ensure higher quality, like actual process quality, because there's less room for errors, so which also boosts your customer's experience. So it's that intersection of making your employees' jobs easier and making your customers' lives better that should be among your primary focuses when managing and elevating your customer service group. So there's the people, and as you work on that, though, you do still have the regular day-to-day business to still run. So properly utilizing your workforce by looking for those optimization opportunities, particularly across this industry's crazy seasonality, is key to optimizing your costs and revenues. And to do so, scheduling and workforce management systems and processes and people are critical. We'll go more in depth on the details of why this is so important, though, and how this can be accomplished on the following slides. So there are so many nuances to running a call center in home services, the least of which is busy season. That one's pretty obvious and ubiquitous. There's also how do you treat for different customer types, different pest types, the differences in acquisition channels and your customer's experience as a result of those, et cetera, just all while making sure that you provide an excellent experience on each of those touch points. You can probably easily imagine doing it with 4 to 5 reps. Now try to repeat that and scale it to 400 to 500 customer service representatives. There's the seasonality element, as I've mentioned, December versus July, of course, but even intra-week and even intra-day, the same variability exists in pest control more than most other home service verticals, certainly more than any of the rest that I've worked in. And one that's existed for a while but has really shoved its way to the top of the list this year is recruiting and wage competition to even be able to get people in the door, let alone getting them to full proficiency. So this graph shows, this might actually be a graph of Aptive's volume with a flat line staffing across the year. But the two things that I want to define real quick is just utilization. It means exactly what it sounds like. It's the percent to which your agent's working time is utilized. So in an 8-hour day, if they spend 6 of those hours on the phone with customers, that would be 75% utilization. And then service level is the percent at which you're answering your calls within a defined amount of time. So it will usually read something like SLA 60, 80%, which means I'll answer at least 80% of my calls within 60 seconds of wait time. So this graph demonstrates what my utilization and service levels would look like if I kept a similar staffing level year-round through the seasonality. Through the summer, I would be absolutely redlining my reps at 80 to 95% all day, every day. But then in the winter, they'd be down to the mid to low 20%. And some people take this approach. But as the bullet points list here, there are some serious pros and cons. So let's talk about this a little bit more in detail first. One, increased abandoned and so missed calls from your customers, which is a huge detriment to customer experience. Your new agents are going to have longer call times and wrap-up times, so that also will impact your performance in answering the calls. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is the agent burnout. It increases your turnover, it increases your no-shows, decreases your close rate and performance efficiency, which leads to longer hold times. Your performance standards suffer, so close rate, auto pay, contract value, all of those things. Your attendance standards fall. And then this is really one of the killers here is hiring, recruiting, training. The frenzy that you need to staff up as much results in lower standards, inferior agents, rushed efforts. It's difficult to impossible to pull agents off of the phones for continuous education training, so to fill in those gaps that were created in the effort to get everybody staffed up quickly. And then ultimately your morale plummets, which completes the full vicious cycle loop. So all in all, don't get me wrong, this approach can work, and it is by far the most cost effective, at least in the short run. But there are some serious long run consequences. In addition to these, though, when you carry these negative effects through to the end of their line, the most important factor above all else is that your customers suffer. So it can work, but you're going to feel the long-term impact of your customers in their obliterated loyalty to your company. On the flip side of that, in the slow season, you have low utilization. It's plain and simple. For each rep or time interval with low utilization, it's dollars wasted and adds up fast. So your customers will likely be happier because you're answering their calls so quickly, but your finance team will not be, which may end up meaning that you need to start charging your customers more to be able to afford it, which will in turn, again, end up making your customers not happy again. Some companies use the excess bandwidth for outreach and account cleanup and such, but it's nowhere near enough to close the gap. So ultimately, the organizational stress and strain of grossly staffing up for the busy season and staffing down for the off season just isn't the right move. And the alternative of maintaining staffing high enough year round to be able to hit the peak season requirements is extremely cost ineffective, and both of them impact your people, employee and customer alike. An alternative is simply required. And for us, the obvious shameless plug is that it's Slingshot, right? So last year, this is my last point on what I wish my managers knew. We've talked about people first and the business elements of staffing management for the call center. The last piece for call center operations that I wish my managers knew was the importance of data. Everybody knows that data is important, but people routinely underestimate and undervalue its importance, especially in a call center or customer service management environment. Without data, you are flying blind. I tell people who haven't managed call center teams before all the time that you could be the best manager in the world, and your full-time job could be to just manage 2 people at a time, and your entire responsibility is to stand behind them and watch over their shoulders to watch and make sure that they are working. That's it. You just literally look over their shoulders and watch all day, every day. Without data, I promise you, and I know this because I've seen it, I'm not exaggerating, that they could make it look like they are working the entire time and you wouldn't know the difference. The lengths that people will go to avoid working is mind-blowing because it's often more work than just to actually do their jobs, but that's a different conversation altogether. The important part here is that data is king. You don't even have to be a full-blown call center type of team, and the dynamic is still applicable, just on a smaller scale. So, as most of you will likely agree, the numbers don't lie. For me, on a daily basis, if this is the dashboard that I keep up on my browser all day, every day, if I were sharing my screen for this presentation, you would see this about 4 tabs over from the one that I'm currently on. It contains most of what I need for keeping my real-time pulse on my various teams. And if you're looking closely, don't worry too much about that programmable chat with 300 calls in queue, contacts in queue for 3 hours. That is our email queue. So well within our normal bounds there. But in closing here, these are some of the key metrics that I consider to be really critical, the true key performance metrics for managing a customer service team. If all you had were the first 4 of these for your customer service team, and then those 4 plus the last bullet point there for your sales performance KPIs for your sales teams, you would be in a really good spot. So in closing, to summarize, number 1, treat your employees right and give them the right tools to easily take care of your customers, and both your employees and your customers will stay and remain loyal. Number 2, manage the seasonality of your business responsibly. Take on the stress and strain of massively scaling up and down from the busy season, or find an alternative. And 3, data is king, period. Don't fly blind. Thanks everyone for letting me take this time with you, and thanks to Slingshot for the opportunity, and to Pest Management Professional and Slingshot for getting us all together.
Thanks. Thank you, Evan. You know, you say data is king. I did get a story the other day, which I'll do for 30 seconds here, is that when they went remote, one of their employees had figured out how to do a random dial of their customer service, so it looked as if it came from a random phone number each time, just to show that they were answering calls, and it was obviously dead air. So obviously you can fool the data, but yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you. Pete, we get to hear the things that, oh, no problem. Yeah, Pete, we get to hear the things that scare you. So this is the finance and operations side, which scare many of us, and we'll likely, of course, go over about 10 minutes today. And so thank you for everyone hanging out with us, and excited to hear what you have to say, Pete.
We are definitely going to go over 10 minutes, so I'll talk fast. But, you know, funny thing, going back to what Evan was saying, when I was a junior in high school, I broke my left wrist playing football. I had a cast on my wrist, and I didn't study for a Spanish test. So I made all the Spanish answers for my Spanish class look like signatures from all my friends all over my cast. And so what Evan was saying is true. People work so hard to cheat that if they just did the job, they perform a lot better. But that's a true story. Okay, so let me go here. Things that scare me about running a company financially. I'm going to preface this by saying that what scares me financially might not scare someone who is running a 4-man operation versus a 400-person corporation. Our concerns as owners are always directly related to the size of the company. For example, a 4-person operation might not be worried about offering health insurance, while a 400-person corporation is looking at the importance of upgrading their GPS system to cut down on wasted gas and overtime. So I jotted down a few things when you guys first, addressed me and said, could I be willing to do this? So I wrote down some things that I thought would directly or indirectly financially worry me as I continue to grow my company. And you see there's a list here. This is not a full list. I just gave you guys one screenshot of the whole list I had. Things like unemployment, manager salaries, search engine optimization. We heard from Farrah about that. Worried about us flattening or slowing down, chemicals. These are all different things that, can definitely worry us as owners. Now, I like to make things fun, so what I did is I made a second list. I put everything in alphabetical order to see if I could do it, and I did do it. Things like accidents, benefits, culture in your company, dollars per minute, earnings, profits, Facebook advertising, Google advertising, Home Advisor advertising, insurance, job market, your KPIs. You heard Evan talk about 8 KPIs a moment ago. Line of credit, millennials. I got a whole book on millennials. Net promoter scores, overtime, PTOs, personal time offs, quarterly earnings, reviews, sales, taxes, unemployment, vendor financing, workman's comp issues, exit strategy, Yelp, and then, of course, zero profits would be a really bad one, but zero profits would be another one. The things I want to focus on today are going to be benefits, culture, overtime, sales, and workman's comp. Those are going to be the things I want to talk about today. Clearly, benefits are a necessity, very necessary as you grow a company, but they also can be obviously a very large strain on your company. Back at the turn of the century, I'm talking about the other century, Henry Ford shook the world by introducing $5 per day wages. It was unheard of at the time. Not only were people flocking to work for him, but everybody could take advantage of the 2 for $5 specials at Burger King. He kept all of his employees longer, which reduced training costs. Employees want to feel that love. Financially, there are many ways to show love towards your employees. At Schopen Pest Solutions, we have paid holidays. We have health insurance where we pay up to 75% for our employees. We have PTOs. We give 7 PTOs to all of our employees at the beginning of every year. So in January, they get 7 PTOs no matter if they've been with us for 2 months or 5 months. And then we add a PTO on every year that they're still with us. We have Queen of Hearts drawing for lots of cash, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. We have anniversary prizes. We do promotions from within the company. I always want my employees to know that they're going to grow with our company, so we always promote from within. Health insurance, of course, is the white whale of benefits. Not all of my employees get health insurance, thank goodness, but for the ones who do take advantage of the program, we pay about $12,000 per month in premiums. For a smallish company like ours, it's tough to fork over $144,000 to cover Blue Cross and Blue Shield every year. But we do it because it helps us retain quality people. Many of you know know about my faith from the articles that I write. I truly believe that God gave me my company, and He's allowed Schopen Pest Solutions to continue to grow so that more and more people can join us and have a better quality of life. Culture is the next thing I want to talk to you guys about a little bit. The old expression, happy wife, happy life. Well, the same is true for employees. Happy worker, you'll have much higher profits. It costs about $4,000 to $5,000 per month to train somebody in our industry. Keeping your workers happy is the cornerstone of any pest control company. If your employees are happy, then your clients will be happy and they'll renew with you every year. If you're always replacing techs or CSRs, then productivity will fall, clients will cancel, and your growth obviously is going to stall. Your profits will also fall because you're wasting time and money on hiring and training new people. So Henry Ford, he had the right idea. Keep your people happy, give them a good wage, give them the good benefits, but you also want to create culture within the company. Why employees stay. According to Entrepreneur Magazine, employees stay with companies for three main reasons. They're engaged, they're respected, they receive personal attention. As far as being engaged, at Schopen Pest Solutions, we want our people doing different projects within the company. For example, we have what are called anniversary angels. Anytime a person has an anniversary within our company, we do something special for them, and our Anniversary Angels Planet. We're celebrating our 15th year in business this year. We're not quite as big as Arrow and Farrah's company or old, but we're getting there. 15 years this year, and we're celebrating, and the Anniversary Angels are coming up with a bunch of different ideas for us to get out into the community, get out to our vendors, get out to our clients, and do different special things. We have a leadership team at Schopen Pest Solutions. Our leadership team meets every month, and they come up with ideas on how to improve the company and different protocols. We have our general manager, operations manager, our quality control, and our branch manager were all brand new employees with me 3 years ago. Like I said, I always want to promote from within to keep that loyalty and to create that culture within the company that everybody knows that they can advance within our company. At our April meeting, we had one of our CSRs, the pretty lady there in the red, gave a presentation on positive culture within the workplace. And one of our technicians, the gentleman to the right of her, showed all of our technicians how to use our bee poles and a tri-dye dust on some wasp jobs we want to do this year. So once again, we're trying to get our people engaged. We also want to respect our employees. Cash is king. You want to respect your employees. Make sure you have fun, different things for them to do within the company. We keep KPIs for all of our technicians and all of our CSRs. We have different categories that we have. We reward the top people in each category for their key performance indicators. We also read all of our compliments to our employees via Facebook, our website, phone calls to the office, net promoter scores, and those are added into the KPIs as well. Getting back to the Queen of Hearts, we tally up their totals each month, and whoever the people are that have the highest person gets 3 picks off our board, second highest 2 picks, and then finally the third place person gets 1 pick. I donate $100 per month into the Queen of Hearts fund. If no one picks the Queen of Hearts, it rolls over to the next month, and so on and so forth. We had one guy in April won $600. We had another person back in October won $800 off our Queen of Hearts board. It's a big deal. I mean, everyone gets so excited about it. We have pictures of the month where we give prizes out to whichever technician takes the best picture of the month. And we give also prizes out to the person who has the best caption of the month. For example, this one is this bat says, "Leave me alone. COVID is tough, and I'm doing the asbestos that I can." So that person who took the picture got a reward, and then the person who did the caption got a reward as well. We have Road Warrior Awards for our drivers who put in the most miles each month. We sing happy birthday to every single employee when it's their birthday, and then we give them gift cards, and I personally bring them a birthday cake. All of our anniversaries are celebrated, and they get to draw from a huge basket. Anytime someone in the office makes a big sales, we have a loud buzzer in the office that they hit so that everybody in the office knows they made a sale. And I genuinely listen to my employees, and we make protocol changes based on their opinions. Then we do personal treatment for our employees. I've delivered chicken soup to sick employees at their home. I've given employees an extra week of paid time off if they have an injury or an illness, medical issue. I cook for my employees a couple times a year. Every Halloween, I go outside. Sometimes it's 50 degrees in Chicago, which is warm for October. Sometimes it's in the 20s like it was here last year during COVID. But I always cook for all my employees, and we have a big party at the end of each season. My article for this month that I write for Pest Management Professional magazine, my article this month is about a young man who left my company to join the Air Force. And I love this kid, very, very proud of him. His mom still works for me, and when I showed her the rough draft of my article for PMP, she just burst into tears. But it meant a lot to her to know that I thought that much about her son. We have framed pictures of all of our employees on what we call our wall of fame. Inside the frame, next to their picture, is a short biography about every every single one of our employees. So that's what we do for our technicians and our CSRs to make them feel important. So engaging your employees, respecting them, giving them personal treatment all starts with implementing your culture within the workplace. You have to have a vision statement, folks. If you don't have one, you need to do one today, okay? Get a vision statement. A mission statement's important. Your core policies are so important. At Schopen Pest Solutions, our vision statement is simply, help is on the way. And all of our trucks, business cards, or baseball caps is everywhere. Our mission statement is consistently helping clients by working with a sense of urgency, compassion, honesty, operational integrity, passion, enthusiasm, and the ability to be nimble in all situations. And what does that spell? That spells Schopen. And we live by this. We live by these core values. Once again, when we train new people, we go over our core values with them, how we answer our phones. Everything revolves around our Schopen core values. All right. Our next topic here, this one is obviously a struggle for most companies. It's a struggle for me. It's called overtime. I don't have an answer for this one, and I don't do very well with it, to be honest with you. Each year, approximately 6.8% of all revenues generated by my company goes right back towards paying overtime. So if I hit $3.2 million this year, as we're expected to do, then we'll probably pay out about $220,000 in overtime during 2021. $220,000 divided by $30 per hour overtime, that equals 7,333 man hours. Now take the 7,333 man hours times normal wages of $20 per hour, and I'm losing almost $75,000 in profit. That's the cost of 2 brand new trucks or the down payment for my retirement cabin over in the Smoky Mountains. What makes overtime such a touchy issue is that the technicians love their overtime. If I took all of it away, I'd have a mutiny on my hands, but I definitely have to reduce it. Now, there are 2 ways that we cut into overtime, and we're going to continue to improve on that. We got to run tight routes. That's a no-brainer. We have to run tight routes. I explained to my CSRs that the number 1 priority at Schopen Pest Solutions is making the routes as tight as possible. We don't use the auto scheduler because 80% of our client base are residential quarterly clients. We take a lot of pride in being able to inspect the inside of their homes to make sure there's no issues. And because schedules can be a fickle thing, we rely heavily on our programmers to make sure that the techs are doing as little driving as possible. Obviously, it saves on gas, wear and tear on the trucks, and of course, overtime. A good scheduler is worth her weight in gold. We overhire here at Schopen Pest Solutions as well. Since I work out of the Chicago area, our winters are brutal, and we slow way down come November. But during the summer, we must have enough technicians to knock out the overtime. So we overhire. Ironically, through attrition and promotions, we almost always have the perfect amount of technicians come wintertime again. Now, if we end up with too many workers, we keep them active by focusing on training, studying, and improving protocols during the winter. So culture, to me, very, very important. Overtime, obviously, we have to cut into that. Very, very important. Our next thing we're going to talk about is sales. This might be a topic quite a few companies drop the ball on most often. You can be a good salesman and sell every person that calls your phone. In order to be a great salesman, you need to have a sales process in place. You need to drive the phone calls to your website, like Farrah was talking about earlier, and then you need to harass those people, and they tell you to, until the customer finally says, yes, I'll take your service, or for the love of Batman, please stop calling me. And then you know at that point to stop harassing them. Your sales process needs to grow and change as your company grows and changes. Back in the old days, Pete Schopen would be driving around his pickup truck answering sales calls in between service calls. Well, now we've got 5 full-time CSRs. We have a quality control guy. I even help out with the phones. We have an inside sales guy who helps with the phones. So everybody's jumping on the phones because that's the number 1 thing we practice at Schopen Pest Solutions is answer the phone the second it rings. At Schopen Pest Solutions, we use Yelp, Home Advisor, Thumbtack. We do have a presence on Nextdoor and Facebook too. Thanks to Farrah's presentation, I'm definitely going to look more into Google Local. Our website has just been a fantastic success for us. We love it. Reach Local manages our website and our search engine optimization. They do a phenomenal job. We do pretty good in the number of requests that are emailed and called into us. I'm running out of time here. I know I'm supposed to keep this at 14, 15 minutes, so I'll speed this up here. But I don't want to bog you down with the nuances in our system, but I will tell you that we demand 8 touches every time a Yelp, a Home Advisor, a Reach Local, a Thumbtack inquiry crosses our desk. I make sure our inside salesperson touches them 8 times. I've created scripts for my salespeople so that we add some variety to the follow-up calls. We log each call. We color code our success and our failures. There have been studies done, and I'm sure that you guys can verify this, that if you continue to mine a sales lead for up to 30 days past the point where they first reached out to you, you can still land a whopping 7% of those leads. So every 100 phone calls that you get via your website or Thumbtack, if you stick with the process and touch those potential customers over and over and over again via text, email, phone calls, mail solicitations, you're going to land 7 more out of 100 before the 30-day transpires. At Schopen Pest Solutions, we had 621 leads through our website alone in April. We failed to close on 100% of those leads. If we did, but we still went through the process for the entire month of texting, calling, and emailing. The law of averages would say that we would land 44 jobs just by not giving up on that first attempt, so very important. Finally, we're going to talk about, this one scares all of us, I'm sure, workman's comp. I love my employees, but they are all little time bombs waiting to go off. In the last week of April alone, one of my technicians had a seizure and crashed one of our trucks. Another technician missed 2 days of work passing kidney stones. An office worker quit because she was offended by the fact that I was trying to tell her how to do her job. One of our technicians got demand on his face because he wasn't wearing his PPE, and he had to leave work early and miss the day. Now, we've been very fortunate at Schopen Pest Solutions that I can count on one hand how many workman comp issues we've had in 15 years. But it is a very expensive insurance, and I hate the yearly audits. Some piece of advice for navigating the world of workman's comp would be create a safety manual. This is just a must. You got to have a safety manual. Give yearly classes on ladder safety. There are some great videos available. You can watch them all in less than an hour. Training, and more training. You got to do lots of training to avoid mishaps. We meet at the end of every month to have our monthly training meetings. During the meetings, we read one chemical label as a group, the whole group, all of us. We go through a label, dissect it. So if anybody's got any questions on one particular product, they'll have them all answered. By doing this, we can go through 12 labels in a year. We also go over our procedures and protocols every month at the meeting. Double check your insurance audit. When you have workman's comp, make sure you double check your insurance audit to make sure that they're not counting the overtime against you. Workman's comp counts the hours that are worked, not the extra overtime pay. For example, if your technicians are making $20 per hour, but their overtime pay is $30 per hour, that $10 additional per hour should not count against you in the audit. So just make sure you're double checking that when you do get audited. And then finally, don't go cheap on the PPE. This year, for example, our company, we invested in every single technician getting B suits on top of all their normal items. And I kind of sped through that, but that is what I got for you today.
Thank you, Pete. So I loved your Spanish cast sheet, I guess. I thought you would have like carved it in, you know, like on a tablet or something into your cast, but appreciate it. Appreciate everybody, Pete, Farrah, and Evan for your participation today. We had a couple of questions that we answered on the panel, but two that I wanted to go ahead and ask. And Evan, if I can go with you first here, you know, you obviously manage a lot of people. You know, how do you keep them eager to work? So who are eager to work but keep making kind of careless mistakes? And Pete, you could probably answer this too. You know, what if you have someone on the call center floor that just keeps making mistakes?
I think one of the most important things that we have enforced and reinforced with the supervisors that we have directly managing our people is to document. Document. If you're having a conversation about something specific with an individual, make sure that it is documented, make sure that the individual has a copy of it, and that the person, the supervisor, has a copy of it. The specific steps that I have my supervisors follow is if it's something that can be immediately corrected, say that's a customer service issue, a process issue, whatever, I have my supervisors, coach the individual, document it, and then listen to their next 3 calls. Our workforce today is entirely remote, besides, 6 people that sit out of 400 that sit outside my office right now. But I tell them, listen to the next 3 calls, and you can tell them that you're going to, not tell them, doesn't matter. Listen to their next 3 calls and look for that behavior, whether it is improved or they're repeating the mistake. And if they get it, then, pop back in, let them know, hey, great work. I noticed that I coached you on this. You did it right. Thanks so much for doing that. Reinforce it. And if they make the mistake again, say, hey, we just talked about this, and I just listened to this call, and you just did it again. Like, what's going wrong? Is there something that you didn't understand? Do you not care? I think you can do better. I believe you can. So let's talk about what's holding you back from being able to do better here. But just that immediate feedback loop, and just looping through that a couple of times all in the same day if necessary, that plus the documentation is usually how we 99% of things usually get ironed out across those 2 processes.
Yeah, I think coaching is huge. It's Evan's right. You need to coach up your employees. And I hate having one-on-ones with them. That's one thing we try to avoid. I'm a huge fan of Gordon Ramsay. I love his TV shows. And one thing he does is if one cook is messing up, he'll bring the whole group together, all 12 of his people trying to win the prize. He'll bring all 12 together and coach them. We do the same thing here. If one person is making, let's say, a mistake, but if one person needs to be coached up a little bit, then I'll call all of them over and say, hey, listen, this is what we need to improve on as a group, and we'll go through that. We also try to get ahead of the curve. So what we'll do is I'll have weekly meetings with my CSRs, and we'll go over maybe the bug of the week. What's the pest that's coming up this week? So when they do answer the phones, that they're a little more educated.
Great. Thank you. Again, I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to PMP. And, from Slingshot, I'll go ahead and push this to the audience. If there is a missed call, like many was talked about today, if you're trying to get more out of your call center and would like our services, you can please contact us on the left-hand side or at sales@getslingshot.com, and we will get to talk to you. I'd love to say goodbye to everyone, and thank you again. So everyone say goodbye, and we appreciate everyone's attendance today.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Chris. And thank you all for attending today's webinar. It was brought to you by Pest Management Professional Magazine and our sponsor, Slingshot. If you have any additional questions for the speakers, you can reach out to them directly via the contact information you see on the slide. And a recording of this webinar will be emailed to you tomorrow and posted to mypmp.net/webinars. Other upcoming webinars from PMP will also be posted to that page. Thank you all for attending, and we hope you'll join us again for another great webinar.